Welcome to the YRUU lay-led service, one of my favorite services of the year. The theme this month in our church is challenging, and the teens have chosen a challenging theme. They want to share with you the topic they've chosen as their social justice project this semester, which is Planned Parenthood and reproductive choice. So we're going to open with a reading. Can I get all of the teens up? So this reading is an adaptation of a speech that Reverend Molly gave at a Planned Parenthood rally in September during a time when the university was cutting its ties with Planned Parenthood and that there was a lot of politics going on. So,
I stand with Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood stood with me as my sole health care provider at a time when I couldn't afford health insurance.
I stand with Planned Parenthood because my faith tells me that every person deserves dignity and compassionate health care. And I know that 7 in 10 women in poverty rely on providers like Planned Parenthood for their most basic care.
I stand with Planned Parenthood because my faith tells me our bodies and our sexuality are good gifts that require our respect. And Planned Parenthood is a strong partner in providing and advocating for comprehensive sexuality education.
I stand with Planned Parenthood because I deeply believe that women and couples facing difficult moral choices deserve dignity, compassion, medical competency, and full, safe access to all of their options.
I stand with Planned Parenthood because the sanity of life, not at birth, Planned Parenthood provides health courage to people whose lives depend on it, filling the gap for those who have no other form of medical care.
I stand with Planned Parenthood because Planned Parenthood stands on the side of dignity, compassion, and care.
When the youth group decided that we would be doing a service about Planned Parenthood, I thought, great, we're getting preachy about abortion. Again. So I'm happy to tell you that I will not be talking about abortion. Planned Parenthood actually spends more of their money and resources on STI screening and treatment than anything else. Now, I don't have much to say about STI screening, but that does say a lot about Planned Parenthood and everyone's perspective of it. I personally always thought of abortion when we talked about doing Planned Parenthood as our social justice project. And while it is an important part of the fight to keep around Planned Parenthood, it's not the only part. They mostly spend their time trying to provide women and men with affordable, quality, reproductive, and complementary health care and education. The reason we chose Planned Parenthood as our social justice project, and not just abortions, is because people deserve more than that. People deserve to have a place to turn to, and Planned Parenthood is often that place. 7 in 10 women in poverty rely on providers like Planned Parenthood for their most basic health care. It's easy to forget about all the wonderful services Planned Parenthood offers and does, especially if you don't know about them. I had no idea that they did Pap tests and breast exams. I didn't know you could get a physical there. You could get a flu shot, and even help quitting smoking, because people fail to talk about it. We get so focused in the hot topics that we forget that they are providing thousands of people with the essential health care that every person deserves. Legislators, protesters, pro-lifers, even pro-choicers, we all forget about it. But when it comes down to it, when you close Planned Parenthood centers, you aren't just cutting off people from the choice to have an abortion. You are cutting them off from information, STI testing, cancer screening, birth control. You are cutting them off from their right to choose, not between carrying a pregnancy or not, but between so many other basic choices like hearing all their options. Last year, Planned Parenthood detected over 70,000 cases of cancer and diagnosed over 170,000 STIs. In a story shared on their website, a woman tells of how she detected that she had breast cancer. After feeling a lump from a self-exam, she decided she wouldn't go in for an exam since she didn't have enough savings to afford one. She then remembered Planned Parenthood and went in for an exam there. They diagnosed her with invasive stage 2 breast cancer. They then told her about all her options and referred her to doctors, helping her to get the treatment she needed to eventually save her life. It is stories like this that are what make up Planned Parenthood. They provide people with a center for information, understanding, and care, something that lots of people forget about when they talk about closing Planned Parenthood. I continued my research into Planned Parenthood by looking up their mission statement. I decided that if we want to fight for them, we should know what they want to fight for. I opened up their website, and the first thing I noticed was the top. It read, Planned Parenthood, care, no matter what. I think that just about sums up what they stand for, and the mission statement did nothing but reinforce it. It read, Planned Parenthood believes in the fundamental right of each individual throughout the world to manage his or her fertility regardless of the individual's income, marital status, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, age, national origin, or residence. We believe that respect and value for diversity in all aspects of our organization are essential to our well-being. As I read it, the very first thing I thought was how similar it sounded to this church. They fight for people's rights, everybody's rights, to have a choice, not only when it comes to abortions, but when it comes to their all-around reproductive health. I stand with Planned Parenthood because they stand with me. They stand for everything I have been raised to think, that everyone gets care, no matter what, no matter where. All this just strengthened my pride in our church and in our youth group for standing with Planned Parenthood when our state does not.
So the song that we just played, Brick by Ben Folds 5, is a song about a young couple seeking abortion. So we are going to talk about abortion. We talked a little about in YRUU of perhaps making the service, dedicating the number of minutes proportional to the services that Planned Parenthood provides, which would mean, since they only provide 3% of their services or abortion services, that we would only talk for 3 minutes about that. But it's an important 3%. And I mean, why it's so important to talk about all the things that Planned Parenthood does, but at the same time, we're not ashamed of the abortion services they provide, and it's important to why we do support Planned Parenthood. And so it's important to talk about that. And I think a lot of times people don't tell their own stories. I think probably everyone in this room has either had to make a complicated reproductive choice or knows someone who has and has loved someone who has. So the teens in our youth group are going to share 4 stories of different choices that people made. And we will start with Isaac Malarski.
About 4 years ago, my mom went in for a routine doctor's checkup. During this checkup, mom had a pregnancy test that turned up positive. This was surprising because my mom was using an IUD at the time. Now, our doctor thought that this might be an ectopic pregnancy. For anybody that doesn't know, an ectopic pregnancy is a pregnancy that occurs in a woman's ovaries and can result in life and could very well be fatal. The doctor advised my mom to visit the emergency room so that she could take a pill that could right the situation. But due to the laws set in place by the Missouri State Senate, it was illegal for the doctors to give my mom this pill. My mom was bleeding, and they said if she started bleeding more, that she should rush to the ER right away. This resulted in some scary weeks where my mom wondered if one day she would collapse from internal bleeding because the doctors weren't sure if it was an ectopic pregnancy or not. Thankfully, my mom got the help that she needed after it was determined that it was indeed an ectopic pregnancy and it could not result in a child. Now, my mother is fine, but it is ridiculous that this happened. When people talk about no exceptions, even if the life of the mother is at stake, they're talking about my mom.
And now Maya is going to share a story very personal to me, the story of my mother.
My mom went in to see a doctor with some ailment or other, and they prescribed her with a medicine, neglecting to ask if there was any chance that she was pregnant. When she returned a few weeks later with the news that she was pregnant, her doctor was horrified. The medicine he gave her had a significant likelihood of causing birth defects. He strongly encouraged my mother to terminate the pregnancy. My mother was 28, and she already had 3 children, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. I can only imagine the overwhelming thought of raising another child, a child with special needs. I know she appreciated that she was given a choice, and after much consideration, she made her choice. She would have the baby. The baby was my little sister, my best friend. I'm so grateful to have her in my life. As it turned out, she had no birth defects. But as a parent of a child with special needs myself, I am proud that my mother was not afraid of having a child who might be different. That she knew she was prepared to love and nurture whatever child she had. I would never demand another parent to do what my mother did. I know that having a choice is what gave her the strength to jump into the unknown with a loving heart.
The next story comes from someone who was a teenager in our church. She's an adult now. She came up through YRUU. I was her advisor, Jessie Iveson, and she shared this story on Facebook in the fall and gave us permission to share it today.
Two years ago, I was raped. 20 years old, by a complete stranger who broke into my tent at a music festival. 5 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. My world was screwed. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, I couldn't breathe. There I was, trying to cope and get support for my traumatic weekend, and now that. Of all things, the first person I called was my mom, to tell her the news. I then went to the hospital to get blood work and to see if this was really happening. It was. At that point, I was faced with the most difficult decision of my life. Do I carry full term, or do I terminate the pregnancy? 2 weeks later, my boyfriend of the time and I drove to Planned Parenthood in St. Louis. Upon entering the parking lot, I was faced with many protesters, screaming, "We're here for you. Don't kill God's gift." I tried to keep my mouth shut. I broke my silence and screamed, "I was raped." To which the protesters told me I was a horrible human being and I would burn in hell for all eternity. Upon entering the building, and after sitting in a waiting room filling out paperwork, I was brought into a room to do an ultrasound. They asked me if I wanted to see the screen, if I wanted to hear the heartbeat. I said yes. Not knowing how far along I was, I had hopes that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't my rapist's. I'll never forget that image. A being no bigger than my thumb, hands, feet, fast, steady heartbeat. A brief moment of happiness hit me. Wow, I have life inside me. I hugged my boyfriend of the time and said, "That's our baby." All was fine, till I found out I was 9 weeks along. I did the math. It was my rapist's. My heart stopped. I then had to make my decision. I was too far along to take the pill. My only option was surgery. 3 days later, I went back and had the abortion. It truly was the most painful experience of my life, emotionally and physically. During my procedure, a nurse was holding my hand and saying, "You're doing the right thing. We support you. You are strong. You can do this." And I did it. Recovery was hell. Still to this day. 2 years later, and I still feel like it happened yesterday. Since then, I have had endless support from my friends and family. Words can't describe how much it means to me. This post took a lot of courage to write. I figured I would keep my business to myself. But within these past years, I've found I'm not alone. Many have had to make the same choice, felt the same as me. I am not alone. I am alive, I'm here, I'm strong, and I'm going to continue living my life to the fullest, and I support Planned Parenthood.
And then we have one more story that was shared anonymously with us. The story Rachel just shared is a very dramatic one, but a far greater number of abortions are a lot more ordinary. And so Maya's going to share a story of that nature.
I had grown up in a difficult childhood, and what had gotten me through was dreaming of a happy life, the happy family I would have someday. And finally, I was grown up, out on my own, still a mess, but getting stronger every day. My dream was actually felt attainable, and then one terrible day, my period was late. I remember how angry I was at myself for getting myself into this situation, how ashamed. But mostly what I can remember was the overwhelming sense of panic. Days and days of feeling like I couldn't breathe, like I was dying, wishing I was dead. All of my options going round and round in my head, over and over, trying to find a way I could make this work, while knowing in my heart that I did not want to make this work. Not for me, and not for this being I had growing inside me. I know others would disagree with my choice, but I knew with all my being it was a choice I needed to make. I finally got up to the nerve to take a pregnancy test, confirming what I already knew. I remember the relief in knowing exactly where I needed to go for help, remembering pulling up the phone book off the shelf, flipping to the P's, and finding a familiar and trusted name, Planned Parenthood. I remember going in for my appointment, checking the box that I was here for an abortion. The counselor asked me to confirm that it was what I wanted. I nodded my head and whispered, yes. My body shaking and contained sobs. She said, "Are you sure? Is anyone pressuring you to make this decision? We can help you do whatever you want to do." She was so kind, so gentle. It gave me courage. I looked up at her and said more clearly, "I want this. I want an abortion." She replied, "Okay, we can help you." And all my unshed tears spilled over. I felt supported, so cared for. The day of the actual procedure, my only memory is the sweetest nurse in the world taking me through it, holding my hand as I cried, her tucking a blanket around me after it was over. I have never regretted the choice that I made. I still know that it was exactly the right choice for me. I will never, never forget the loving care, the respect, and the support I received from Planned Parenthood.
So as you go out into this week, making your own difficult choices, being surrounded by other people making difficult choices, I think we can all try to embody the motto of Planned Parenthood, to care no matter what. So, episodes